Yo, what's up guys? Grim here. So with the huge announcement of the War of the Atlas expansion, we'll be seeing quite a few changes to the Atlas of Worlds. So this is going to shake things up quite significantly in terms of like sextanting, blocking, and shaping your Atlas. So what I've done here is gone ahead in Photoshop and picked up some stuff off Reddit and updated it, kind of added the tier scores and filled in a couple blanks that were missing. I've then gone and actually gotten a sextant from the game and overlaid it on this map, making sure it was all like correct in terms of like ratio and pixels, and figured out how many sextants can go on every single map on the new atlas. So with that, I've kind of applied my own knowledge and my like kind of experience in the game to determine what we should be shaping now and what's like most optimal to farm for like XP or for drops. So we'll go ahead and get right into it. I've created a Excel spreadsheet here with all of the information that we'll be using, and I'm going to go through every single tier list and explain which one I would be shaping and sextanting and which ones I would kind of avoid. But before that, we have to talk about the topics like just briefly because there's a lot of big changes which are going to affect how we're going to approach the atlas. So the biggest change by far is the introduction of the shaper goo and the elder goo on the atlas and how it spreads and kind of moves around. So straight off the bat, we kind of have to consider that hey, this is kind of going to affect which maps we want to run, which maps we don't want to run, and kind of incentivize us to maybe move on to maps that we wouldn't like normally do otherwise. Because personally, I just run shaped primordial pools and dunes all day for like the maximum currency gains, but that might not be a viable strategy anymore. So the first implication that this is going to have on our atlas is that blocking for maps isn't going to be as effective anymore because if we use a ton of sections blocking out like primordial pool or something and like completely cover up half our atlas here, that's going to completely disable our ability to influence the war between the shaper and the elder. So we can't really pinpoint like a certain map to like fight back the shaper if it's just got a shitload of sections all blocking on it and stuff like that. So it seems like they're heavily disincentivizing blocking in the new update. So we can actually see that reflected in the actual atlas as well. Like if you want to check over here for strand, you can't actually block anything around here at all apart from this map down here, which will block two other maps, Arid Lake and Vile City here. So in terms of strand, you're just going to be straight up just putting your white sections on and not really having any control over what you don't and do want. So it looks like section blocking, like while it's been weakened, is not completely gone though, because look at the density around the red area here and yellow area. It will still be a thing. It's just a matter of whether you want to do it, because like you might want to be influencing your atlas in other ways. So blocking is like neither here nor there. I personally probably won't be doing it, but yeah. Okay, so our next topic is kind of like shaping of the atlas. A lot of people are like, are shaper orbs even going to be a thing anymore because they don't like the shaped atlas meta, but they are definitely a thing. We've seen footage of Chris Wilson in an IGN interview showing actual like shaper orb like graphics on the atlas, so you will definitely be able to still get them. And we're going to be talking about which maps we want to shape from them. Now, in terms of sextanting, they haven't really changed too much. It's just maps, like different maps that you want to be sextanting now. Like you can't put five white sextants on Primordial Pool anymore, obviously, because it's a tier 11 now. Um, there are still some very good options for sextanting. It's not like you can't do it anymore. It's not going to be as effective as it was in patch 3.0 and before because you can't block anymore, really. But it's still going to be very strong. And if you have the money to invest, you will definitely be able to use them still. So we're gonna head straight into the like data that I collected here, and we're going to talk a little bit about which ones we want to be running and not running in every single tier. So just to start off, tier one still only has four maps, but they've been pretty shaken up. They're completely different, and we have one new map here, which we can't actually obviously know what it is without the actual full release. But yeah, we can see that you can actually get quite a lot of sextants on tier one maps. So Beach coming in with four white sextants is pretty impressive. However, when you shape it up to tier six, you won't really want to be running that for XP, so it's not too relevant. But in tier one, I would be shaping either Beach or Graveyard. Um, Preferably probably Graveyard because we will be running Strand most likely for our tier 9, and because Strand can have a whopping 7 white sections on it, it's going to be the best map for farming currency. So I would be going with Graveyard, but if you don't care for Strand, you can shape Beach as well. Dungeon is just a big no-no for me. Obviously, it's a really tight-knit layout. Just a quick disclaimer, I play like full-on clear speed builds like EK. I used to play Vile Spark, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my perspective on a lot of this. I'm not really a slow kind of player. I like to play fast and I like to make a lot of money in the maps. So that's kind of like where my thinking is with all of this stuff. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of you other players will be like thinking a lot of this is a bit different for you, but that's fine. You can kind of take this information and do what you want with it. So for tier two, I think there's only one clear option for shaping, and that's Arid Lake. However, it does actually conflict with Strand, so that's a little bit of a problem. As we can see here, Arid Lake is just over here, and we want to actually throw a sextant on that for Strand, and by shaping it, it will become yellow, and then Strand will then have another yellow sextant on it, increasing our like entry level to like sextant up Strand. So it's a bit difficult for tier two. I actually probably won't be shaping a tier two, but if you are going to shape one, Arid Lake is definitely the best choice. Marshes has a lot of plants which you can shield charge into, and it's kind of gross, and you can't always find the bridges on the map. Desert has a lot of backtracking, and Cavern is quite similar. Lots of backtracking, lots of walls and rocks to run into. So for tier three, Port is definitely the best option in my opinion. It has three white sextants, and it has a nice linear layout, and you can do it very quickly, which I think fast maps are going to be very important in the upcoming expansion because when you complete a map, I'm pretty sure that it actually updates the atlas, like in terms of the war going on with the Shaper and the Elder. So the faster you do maps, like the faster you will be able to kind of like pick and choose which maps you want to do to farm up those new Elder and Shaper items. So faster mapping is always going to be better in my opinion. Another good option is Springs. However, it only has one white sextant, but it is a pretty good layout. It's similar to the Northern Forest in Act 3. So yeah, it can be pretty effective. Some other ones which are notable here are Sulfur Wastes, Barrel Changes, and Arcade. Arcade's on there because it has five white sextants. So if you shape up Arcade and have it as your tier 8, it can be pretty good, I guess. Not comparable to Strand though, so you kind of got to pick and choose what you want here. Burial Chambers is actually a pretty good map, but it's just really big and the density is really low. So GGG have said that they're going to update the density though. So if they do that and it's completely crammed full of mobs, then we could see it being a very good map. Sulfur Waste is also an outdoor map. It's pretty open, but it does have a few hills, which can be kind of annoying to get up if you don't have a movement skill like Flame Dash. So, yeah, you got to try that one for yourself. I might shape it, but we'll have to see. Cells and Excavation are just absolutely god awful, so I wouldn't touch them with like anything. In this tier, we also do have three other maps here, which are going to be released. One of them has five white sextants, which can be put on it, which could be quite interesting, but we can't tell until we see those if it's going to be good or not. So tier four, this is the big heavy hitter, which everyone's pretty excited about. Strand. So if you shape up Strand, you'll get a tier nine. It'll be yellow, and you'll be able to put seven white sextants on it, including itself. So basically, what I do when I play is I have two maps that I farm, which I will like ping pong between. So I'll unshape Strand and maybe go to Gorge, and then Strand will become white, letting me put an additional white sextant on it instead of a yellow. So that's why I've said seven white instead of six white and one yellow. So yeah, I'll probably be mixing it up, but going between Strand and Gorge for my farming here, and I believe that Strand and Gorge, the combination of the two, will be the best option for farming currency, as long as they don't drastically change the layouts of these maps or like completely nerf the density to the ground. These will be the best options for making money. Canyon is also a very popular map and it's quite good, but I really don't like the boss at all. It often kills me, so yeah, not a fan. We do have some other options here though. Volcano and Grotto are just pretty bad in my opinion. I do believe that Volcano drops the Combs Heart card, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't run a lot of Volcano. Tier 4 has a lot of new maps coming out. So we have one here which could have five white sextants on it. If it's like a very good map, then we might see that have some play. But other than that, like it's really hard to tell until we actually see the maps whether they'll be good or not. Tier 5, there's only really one good option in my opinion, and that's Channel. Channel's also a very good map because it can have the Tabula Rasa divination card drop, and you can actually just trade the Tabula Rasa for a Divine Orb, so it's pretty good for making currency actually as well, and it is a higher tier than Strand and has can have 4 white sections on it. My only gripe with Channel is that there is a bit of backtracking, but other than that, it's pretty good. Another option would be Spider Layer. It is reasonably good. It has very good density on 3.0 right now. But as you can see, it requires 2 white and 2 yellow sextants, so that could be a bit of a problem. But yeah, other than that, all of these are really quite terrible. Barrows, Val City is one of the worst maps in my opinion. Ivory Temple Maze, all these are pretty bad. So for tier 5 though, we have 3 new maps again, which I can't really comment on, and but there's no really like large outliers for sextants here. They all just look pretty similar. So moving on to our yellow maps. For our tier 11, that's always been a very important shaper kind of like point which everyone farms like a tier 11 shaped as like kind of like their go-to backbone of their map pool. So traditionally, it's been a very important tier for the tier 6 to have a very good one to shape up. So as we can see here, we've got a few good options. We've got Atoll, Ashenwood, and Jungle Valley, which are all quite good. You can't get a whole lot of white sextants on them, which is like a bit of a problem, and it kind of sucks. But it's pretty similar to live. You can't really white sextant up. Tier 11 maps are very good anyway. So I think I would definitely be going with Atoll here. Ashenwood has a lot of the brick walls and like trees and stuff that you can shield charge into, which kind of sucks. Similar to Jungle Valley. There are some other options if you want to like kind of like dabble in these. Cemetery is quite good as well. If you pack a skill like Flame Dash, you can like kind of like move around pretty well and get like all the packs pretty quickly. Although I don't think it's even close to Atoll. Like I think Atoll is definitely the best one here. Wolf and Phantasmagoria are pretty good as well. But I will say Academy Thick and Underground Sea particularly are quite bad. So I would be avoiding those if you could. 2 more new maps here. Definitely a bit noteworthy here. The one here I've got is new Tier 6B. Can have 5 yellow sections on it. That's quite a large amount. So we could see that have some play if it's a good layout. So tier 7, Dunes, my personal favorite map, has been moved to a tier 7. So when we shape that up, it'll be a tier 12, which is quite interesting. It can have 3 yellow sextants on it, which is not bad. It's definitely not great, but you know, it's also in a position where you can't actually sextant block at all either. So I don't think that I personally will be putting too many sextants on Dunes. I'll be kind of farming it as a middle of the road map to get through the tier and just kind of sustain my map pool. Another good option would be Ramparts, but it has some issues. It's got the trees which you can shield charge into, and it also has that awkward kind of layout up the top where you have to move along like the wall. But yeah, it's okay. It's definitely an option, but I don't think it beats Dunes by any amount. Some other things you could do are Underground River. It's kind of similar to Phantasmagoria, but it's a little bit easier to run. I'm not a big fan personally, and the boss is a complete nightmare, so I would avoid that one. Catacombs has very good density on live, and so does Arachnid Nest. So those are definitely options if you're playing a bit like of a slower build without a movement skill as your focus. We've also got some really bad maps in this one, like Terrace, Bazaar, Crematorium is just horrible, and it's kind of funny that they stuck 5 yellow sextants on it. It's kind of a bit of a meme, in my opinion. And Residence, these are all maps you kind of want to be avoiding if possible. And then of like specific interest, we have a new 2-7 here, which can have 6 yellow sextants on it. I believe it's in a pretty good place as well in terms of blocking. I would have to check. Um, doesn't look like can find it too easily. Yeah, I believe it's here. Yes, it is. So yeah, this is actually a very good place. We can block up here, up here. We can do a bit of blocking over here, and definitely do some blocking over here. So if this map is actually any good, this could be the kind of new go-to XP kind of farm map. Because like the most important thing with sextanting is that you get your value and you can kind of sustain them. And with so many bad sextant mods in the pool, like slipstreams, without having the ability to block that, it gets difficult to be cost effective with it. So we really want to have some blocking, and we can actually get that on this map. So it's actually it has the potential to be the next kind of big map. This one right here. So that's quite exciting. I'm really keen to see if that's works out to be a good map. Tier 8, we have Shore, which is I think the same tier as it is now. Yes, it is. It's so when we shape that up, it'll be tier 13. Tropical Island. These are both good choices. I prefer Tropical Island personally. Courtyard is also a pretty good choice here because it can have 5 yellow sextants on it. Personally, though, I would always just stick with Shore and Tropical here, unless you particularly want to go crazy on your sextants and have like a nuts tier 13. Um, I'm not a big fan of any of these ones, especially Vile Pyramid. They're all pretty bad and kind of like pokey. Like always, I'm pretty sure I indoor apart from Quarry, and Quarry has a lot of like different vertical areas, so you have to flame dash up and down and everywhere, and it's pretty bad. Nothing really noteworthy here with the other new 3 maps coming out yet, unless one of them has an extremely good layout. Um, so tier 9, this is the one everyone's talking about. Vault can have 5 yellow sextants on it. Personally, I think they're going to nerf the shit out of the divination card drop rate, so I wouldn't get too excited. They might even completely remove it, it's possible. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. But having a tier 14 vault could be quite interesting. It definitely could be the map that everyone just spam farms the whole entire expansion. So yeah, that could be interesting. Personally, I'm a big fan of Estuary. I think it's quite a fun map and it's pretty aesthetically pleasing in my opinion, and it's got a really nice open layout. It's also got a lot of chests, so if you have a support with you, they can like kind of like spam open all the chests, and it gives you a higher drop rate of items. If I recall correctly, Plateau is in fact it's like a figure eight similar to Atoll, so that also could be a very very good option if the density is good for a tier 9. So I'll probably be shaping either Estuary or Plateau. If you're an ES character or a low life character, you might want to look into farming Scriptorium because I'm pretty sure they're keeping the Chavarone's divination card. I wouldn't see them changing the end boss of Scriptorium. It's pretty staple in my opinion. So we've got some other pretty poor maps here. Temple, Arena, Museum, Tower. All of these are quite bad in my opinion, and no noteworthy stuff here in the new maps in terms of sextants. Tier 10 overall is quite bad for your maps, although traditionally they have kept tier 10s pretty bad, so you can't just shape up a crazy tier 15 and farm the crap out of XP. But we do have Bog as a tier 10, which is a very good map. It's really nice and open. There's really nothing really to like run into with your shield charges. Um, in terms of sextoning, it's not great, but you know, you can't have everything. So we can have 2 yellows and 1 red on it, which is pretty good. But yeah, Arachnid Tome, which has been previously pretty good map. It's a bit pokey. You can shield charge into things, but it's got really good density and it's pretty fast to run. It can have 4 yellow and 1 red sexton on it, which is pretty good. Wasteland is also another one which you would want to look into, in my opinion. It is using the Dried Lake tile set, which is a very good tile set in my opinion. There's nothing to shield charge into at all. The only downside is it does have some very narrow side passageways to move in between the areas, which can be a bit awkward to move in between. So yeah, but it's still a very good map, so I would see that definitely competing with Bog, but it needs to be tested before you can do that. Pier is also an okay map. It's pretty linear, but it does have stuff you can run into, so that's why it's not green. Um, yeah, so all these other maps are quite bad, especially Crypt. I really am not a big fan of. Nothing really too interesting here. Um, so that ends kind of like what I would shape and what I would run because like you can't really reliably sustain non-shaped tier 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 maps. It's just not effective. Um, so yeah, in terms of just running them though, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of good ones. Um, So a lot of them really bad layouts seem to have been ended up here. So apart from the new ones, obviously we don't know those. But for tier 11, we have green Mesa. That's the only one which I think is worth running. Promenade might be okay depending on the density. Same with Primordial Pool. Like on live, it's really good because you can stick 5 sextants on it for basically nothing. But without that, it's pretty like sparse. So if they up that, maybe it's good. Spider Forest might be ran for the divination card, although it's really hard to sustain it because it's next to all the other ones which can drop. Coves is okay, but it has a lot of mobs that spawn in it naturally, which will slow your movement down, which could be bad. And Colonnade is personally like it's okay. It's pretty open, but yeah, it's not great. So I think you're going to be choosing Mesa here every single time just to run if you have it. But of course, like you're going to be wanting to run these other maps shaped instead of running these. Um, it's kind of funny they made Factory at tier 11. I have no idea. So obviously they've changed the boss for Factory, and it's going to be quite a difficult one. Should be interesting to see what we have there. Um, for tier 12, they've moved Racecourse to tier 12, which is kind of sad because that's one of my favorite maps. But yeah, if you end up with race courses, you can run those. But as I said, you're not going to be really running many of these maps at all unless you're trying to progress your atlas or you're just trying to farm up another map base to farm more maps. So, Castle Ruins is also here, but all of these other ones are just, they're terrible to run. They're not fun. They're slow. Yeah, not great in my opinion. Tier 13, Oasis is really the only good map. All these other ones are just absolutely shocking. So yeah, I won't be running any of those, just Oasis. Tier 14, Acid Lake and Dark Forest are okay. Dark Forest is traditionally quite a small map. It's not got a lot of monsters in it, and the boss is very hard, so I'd probably be staying away from that one. But Acid Lakes is generally a pretty good layout, and it has a lot of like density in it, which is nice. But yeah, the rest of these are pretty trash in my opinion. And then tier 15, Reef. Although I don't believe this is going to be the Reef that we all know. I think it's going to be the tile set from Act 6, and the boss is going to be the Brian King. So I think it's going to be a very different map. I don't think we can kind of base anything we know about Reef to be like what it's going to be like in 3.1. Although I do believe it's going to be quite an open layout, so it might be a good map to run if you have them. So in conclusion, I think there's a lot of changes. I think it's going to shake up the game quite a lot. We're going to be running a lot of maps that we didn't run before, but also I think that it's going to stay pretty much the same in terms of like speed, clear mana. I don't think that the Elder and the Shaper stuff is going to influence it too much unless it adds a crap load of density, or the new Shaper and Elder items are completely like super rare, overpowered things which you can't craft. But to my understanding, those items you pick up the base and you can chaos spam them for exactly what you want. That could be wrong, but if it does end up that way, I think we're gonna still see this speed clear meta. Like personally, I would rather farm tier 9 strands with 7 white sextants on them for currency to then buy the Elder and Shape items of other players. And I think we're going to see that a lot. And especially for the race to 100, you're not going to see people worrying about Elder and Shaper, I don't think. It's not going to influence the decision on what maps they run. They're just going to spam run the one which is most efficient and you can stick the most sextants on. So yeah, I hope this has given you a bit of insight into the new expansion and helped you kind of understand like what you're going to do on day one of the atlas and how you're going to like kind of map out what you want to shape and what you don't want to shape, what you do and don't want to run and unlock. I think that there will be a lot of people who just unlock the whole thing and think that the shape map atlas is gone, but I think it's still definitely going to be here and it's here to stay. I don't think they're going to be able to get rid of it unless they delete shaper orbs completely, because just being able to force what maps you want to drop every single time is just way too strong. So yeah, thanks for watching. I do stream on Twitch if you want to drop by. I'm usually there every day. And subscribe if you want more videos like this one. I really enjoyed making it and hope you learned something. Thanks.